Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and to explore a bit together this topic of inner resilience. And I would cross a bit your plans of turning off the cameras because inner resilience has something to do with presence. So I would like to invite you to stay with your camera, and I would like to invite you to be with me and with all of us together here. If you can, and you feel comfortable with this, so please turn on your camera. I will share now for a moment the screen, or I will continue sharing the screen. And I would like to invite you today, and please don't feel there was a big offer of all that. So please feel this as an invitation. Please feel this as a space where you can be. The topic of inner resilience for us maybe became in the last years individually already very important because some of us surely have faced some crisis, and now it's a bit different. We are all facing now a crisis. And in a way, we are all facing this question, what about my inner resilience? And I dare to enter this topic today more with you as a journey than speech or a lecture. And I invite you to let the questions that I will put into the space, to let them land into you. Land for me is also a beautiful word for the soil, and especially people that are gathering around an organization like Cell, people who want to take care of the earth. I feel it's important that we take care of our inner soil, of our inner garden, of our inner earth, of a place where seeds really can land and from where they can grow. And here we get already probably in touch with the first reference point about inner resilience. And I want to ask you a question. Are you more comfortable with questions rather than answers? And are you more comfortable with complexity rather than with simplicity? Just take a moment and observe what comes into you. No one knows better than you. And please allow me to continue with some more questions, because questions are leading us into a new terrain, and they allow us to step out of old places and to create space for new inside and new outside of us. I invite you again to take some deep breath, and because not only, but also breath is probably the most resilient place in us. It's an unconditional gift that we don't even think about it, but it's given to us moment to moment. And just like the wind, let this breath gently touch the land, and then also the following question to land in you. Is inner resilience a concern, an individual concern, or is inner resilience a collective concern? And I ask you, please don't answer this question too quickly from your mind. The question has a dimension that we want to explore deeper with one another. And if I say exploring, I am emphasizing on a quality that we deeply know when we enter the realm of inner resilience and salutogenesis also. And at least for the next 20 minutes or 15 minutes, or also in the breakout groups later, become a researcher. I invite you to become a researcher. I invite you to become curious. I invite you to dive inside and to slow down and to get profoundly in touch. Without needing to have an answer to all these questions that I have already put into the space right now. And don't worry, I feel they will emerge. We could follow this road of being in touch and deepen our journey to ask probably the most central question: where does inner strength really come from? Well, when we look to the pioneers that have been exploring these questions, like Emmy Werner, who was a developmental psychologist who was working with traumatized children, or Aaron Antonovsky, a sociologist who studied inner factors of surviving concentration camps, or also Viktor Frankl, a medical doctor that has been captured himself in concentration camps. But also, and this is my invitation, also dare to put inside your own experience from difficult moments in your lives into this question. If we dare to do that, if we are honest to ourselves and we are faithful to what we deeply know inside, we need to admit that inner strength comes from being in touch with ourselves, being in touch with others, and deeply being in touch with nature. These are the three big divides of modern and postmodern society. And the story of separation in our mindsets, creating this empty feeling inside, and probably also this non-resilient feeling inside, yearning for so much connectedness until a place where we can really feel oneness. Let's dare to be there for a moment. Dare to feel probably your own longing to be in that place. And at the same time, we could dare to feel the strengths that could emerge from that place. The strengths for ourselves, the strengths for our society, and also the strengths for the planet. Being in touch with this profound place of being could be the ground of inner resilience that can transform not only us, but also others and the world around us. When we allow ourselves now to go back to the first question, is inner resilience an individual concern or a collective concern? You might feel now that we cannot separate this from one another. My inner resilience, my being in touch with myself, is the foundation for a resilient community and a resilient planet. How can I be resilient for others or the planet if I am not resilient for myself? When we start to experience this profound, intimate touch inside of ourselves, then we probably cannot cause harm anymore to others and also not to the planet. And then we start to be resilient, not from an ideological or a conceptual way, but probably from a very essential and deeply embodied place, emerging from that very source of resilience itself. Now, you can say to me, this sounds quite spiritual, and what can I do? You know, what what can I do with all this? Nice that you say this, but what does it take to be in touch with that source? Well, as I mentioned in the very beginning, I said we need some curiosity, we need openness, the beginner's mind for ourselves, and spaces where we can be. We need spaces we can be just the way we are. Only if we authentically dare to be where we are and what we are in our lives, we can heal, we can transform, we can grow, we can change, and from there finally open to the source of life and to the source of resilience. I would say but it also needs a commitment. It needs a commitment to do these explorations with ourselves, and it needs a commitment to do this exploration together with others. And we need people more than we want to need people. The commitment, their commitment could grow from this place that we have touched some minutes before, this ground where we can feel oneness. And from this place, it could emerge in us something like this. What I do to myself, I do it to you, and I do it to the planet. And what I do for myself, I do it also for you, and I do it also for the planet. With this commitment, there comes a deep knowing and sensing understanding about our bodies, about our emotions, about our minds, about our souls. Deeply being in touch with these parts of us as human beings, without the need to get allergic to one of them or to get attached to one part of us, but simply to go for it to align them. And this alignment will develop a sense of coherence in us, to use in this moment just an expression of salutogenesis. And by the way, this sense of coherence, today we can show it in a bundle of measurements in the body, with heart rate variability, with EEG, immunological parameters. And this sense of coherence allows us not just to feel victim of circumstances, but to be a co-creator in this process of life. It also allows us to be with complexity. I was asking this if you were rather comfortable with complexity or with simplicity, but it allows us to be with complexity and to establish this graceful connection between thinking, feeling, and sensing, and intuitively understanding the overall situation. Let me put it again in different words. It is an adventure of unfolding bodily, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual intelligence, and to align them to a new I. Is that enough for inner resilience? So if that would be enough, we could say, okay, we can go, we know what to do. Well, as all the research about inner resilience is showing, there is an inevitable factor for health and development in human beings. And this inevitable factor is that we need stable and trustful caregivers, stable and trustful human fellows, and stable and trustful communities. We know from neuroscience how much we co-regulate each other by mirroring each other. And from psychology, we know how important it is to look about our traumas, about our shadows, and our not grown up parts in order not to project them to the world, and become protagonists of unsafe relationships and unsafe communities. So can I do it alone? This question of inner resilience? I know this answer comes from you. Your system has an evolutionary intelligence that knows you wouldn't have survived and you will not survive, physically or psychologically, alone. As I said before, we need one another more than we want to need one another. So being a loving and compassionate presence for one another is a condition in order to be able to touch the deepest source of resilience. And if you want, for this we need a new we. We need a we that is based on a new type of relationships that are understood simply as an ecosystem in which we are looking for the evolutionary potential in each other instead of using each other, in which we are focusing on caring and sharing with each other. And to build a bridge, it's just like in permaculture. If you want, it's an inner permaculture process. To conclude, is resilience now a technique that we can learn? Or is it something about surrendering into the great source of being? Unfolding resilience is an art of bridging. It's an art of bridging between doing and being together in this adventure of life. And if you want, it's also bringing together feminine and masculine principles that are present in our lives in an adventure where we can become more what we are, and in an adventure where we become more trustful and compassionate for others, and in an adventure where we become also more one with the planet we are living on. And finally, surrendering to the great source. I ask you to take again some deep breath and let this land in you. Feel inside how it has touched you or not touched you. It's also okay. I thank you very much for your presence that you have been showing till now. And when you go to the breakup groups now, this is an invitation. When you speak, speak from the source. When you speak, speak from your heart. When you speak, speak in presence with others. Thank you very much.